Welcome to Web and BeyondCast, where small business comes to learn about marketing and managing on the web and beyond, with your host, Ray Sidney Smith.
Hello there, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and community. Welcome to Web and BeyondCast. This episode is part of a new and hopefully ongoing series called Business Startup Series, which will publish about every 5 to 10 episodes on Web and BeyondCast. And this is where we'll discuss issues specifically related to small business, startup, and management issues. Today on this show, we are going to be talking about and really answering the question, do I really need a business plan? It's a question that I get all the time, and I'm sure that my guest today on the show gets quite often as well. I have on the show, and I'm pleased to have on the show, my colleague and friend, Robin Sumi, owner and founder of Startup to Growth, LLC, a small business coaching, mentoring, and educational firm. I know Robin originally from her time as executive director of Loudoun Small Business Development Center, where she spent over 9 years helping thousands of small businesses through seminars, one-to-one counseling, and business planning classes. She's also been an adjunct professor at Northern Virginia Community College, teaching entrepreneurship and small business management and introduction to business courses. She's created a curriculum for business plan boot camps, and she's worked with small businesses from every industry. And so, Robin, welcome to Web and BeyondCast.
Ray, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm excited about our conversation. You're such a strong supporter of startups and small businesses in general. I've loved working with you through the years and being your friend and colleague. And so thank you.
I'm really delighted to have you. And so we're going to be talking today about business planning. And I know that it's a big topic, and we're going to try to spend the time we have together on what and why a business plan is necessary, because there are a lot of people out there who say, oh, well, you don't need a business plan. You just, go create one. And I think today's conversation is going to help us answer that affirmatively and decisively from now on. So let's start off with what fundamentally is a business plan. I think a lot of people don't actually know.
Ray, that's such a great question. In a nutshell, a business plan is a written document that describes your business idea, your product, your services, and how you're going to establish a sustainable business from that idea. That's it. It's your guide, your roadmap in words to starting and then growing your business, your dream, the way you want it to grow. It's complete with goals and objectives. I say crush the fear and step into accountability. I love that definition, with a plan.
And I think a lot of business owners can get so much out of understanding what a business plan can do for you once they really understand fundamentally that's what a business plan is. There's quite a bit of talk out there about business plans versus what are called lean startup canvases and these kitschy one-page business plans that everyone talks about. Can we talk a little bit about what the differences between these and the business plan are?
I believe that all planning is worthwhile, and you're absolutely right. The small business world is afire with, I don't really need a business plan. I'll just do a one-page business plan in 10 minutes. I'll be fine. Not so much. I think that all planning is worthwhile, no matter what form it takes. Whatever you use to get you started into the planning pathway, I'm happy about. So I say I welcome the one-page business plans for that reason. Are they enough? I don't believe that they are. Some plans are better than others. I believe that everything you do in life can be used somewhere. So when you're using those tools to get you started, it might shorten your trial and error period down the road. It's like a feasibility study. At the end of the day, you need a business plan, and I'm talking about a formal plan. The lean startup process where you're shortening the product development cycle, getting the good enough product out there, sometimes that works and sometimes it does not. The minimum viable product, if it's not good enough and it hurts your brand, then I believe you've hurt yourself, not helped yourself. At the end of the day, if it were that easy, we'd all be billionaires. And it depends. Those are the two answers I give most small businesses. And all right, Robin, this falls in that same category.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here. I'm a small consulting business startup, and I have, say, one major client. Why do I need a business plan? And this goes for a new food truck business, online store that's selling, say, handmade crafts. Why do any of these businesses need business plans?
Another excellent question. The small business owner that has one major client is actually one of my major clients, because say they're in the federal contracting field. They think they have a contract for years, and all of a sudden that contract cancels. Or they're a consultant, their major client, their only client goes out of business, has a business change. Or they get notified that a contract is ending in the next 6 months, and they're like, oh my goodness, I have no idea. I started shop, I had this client, I thought I was fine. They're not. A business plan would do away with all of that because there would be a marketing plan in place, there would be a diversification plan in place. Say you're a food truck, you still need a business plan. You're always monitoring your competitors, what the food trends are, looking at landing new corporate clients. There's always a reason to be planning ahead. You never know what the environment's going to bring you. The online store, great example. Trends change, even in homemade cards. I'm here to tell you that everything changes. The millennials have changed a lot of our different marketplaces. Do they have a recyclable card? Maybe that's a new product line they can bring in that would really attract the millennials. Maybe they want to give away a certain portion of their profits to a cause that would be attractive to the millennials. There's so many reasons to have a business plan, even in these very simple operations. We're not talking a 30-page plan.
And I think it's really important
what
for
you're
people
doing.
to recognize that no matter what size of the business you have, a business plan is, as you said, I love the term feasibility study. I think you're right on point there, Robin, that people need to really fundamentally recognize is this business feasible? And the business plan not only helps you make that determination, but once you do make that determination, it now allows you to go forward with confidence. Now, I know that you talk about your basically 5 reasons for preparing a business plan. Ultimately, what is the consequence of both writing a business plan and of those that do not prepare a business plan before they go into business?
Let's get into my 5 points. The first point I have is fail on paper first. When I'm working with clients or when you're doing your own business plan, you come to maybe the financials portion or the marketing portion, and you have all these ideas and you cannot possibly do it all. You cannot go to the bank and get a loan that's going to support the marketing activities at the levels that you have. And so for all of those reasons, we want to make sure that you can actually make this business sustainable. So we don't want you to put your hard-earned money or scarce time at risk. So let's plan it on paper first. And the financials, keep them simple. Keep them grounded in reality. Understand them. So we want you to don't fail out in the marketplace. Fail on paper first. The great part about that is you can revise it and try again. Point number 2, it forces you to think through every phrase. I call it turning over every rock. Mentally, when you're thinking about your business, you're thinking about the parts of the business you love. You are not thinking about the parts of the business that you don't love, which are equally important. They can actually be your success factors. So by plan, you're going through the entire formal planning processes, even the parts you hate, turning over those rocks, touching those bases, and being prepared. And let's take logistics, for example. If you've got a simple service business, you don't have to have a huge section on logistics. However, if you're a moving company that packs, moves, and even stores household goods and business goods for people while they're overseas for 5 years, logistics takes on a whole new meaning. Turn over that rock. Is there any juice there? If there's not, move on. The third reason is organize your thoughts. Just write things down. I work with very creative people and all these ideas are bouncing around in their head. They find that when they actually write these ideas down into one document, it frees up their creative brain. They can go on and explore new ideas. So it helps them stay organized. One place to find everything. The fourth reason, I call this curb the bright, shiny object dragon. A lot of the folks I work with are wildly creative, but this helps them focus on their priorities, what is actually going to make their business grow. It helps them remember their ideas and act upon them. I also talk about this as parking the rest of the ideas on a shelf. You've got a business plan, this new idea pops into your head. That's lovely. Put it in your business plan for a future product. It doesn't go away. You're not going to forget about it, but you're not going to act on it now because it's not the highest and best use of your time. Again, it frees up your mind. I think this is the most important reason for yourself. It's your life and your business. I want you to make both of them the best that they can be. So this is really all about you. The sixth reason is the reason most people put number 1. They want to get a bank loan, their landlord, their banker, someone needs this business plan. That's lovely. But I go back to number 5. Do it for yourself first. Make sure that you're not putting all your assets at risk.
I love your bonus number 6 there, Robin, of needing a bank loan, because really that is the reason most people come into, say, a small business development center or another economic development agency like that, is because they've gone to the bank and the bank has said, hey, where's your business plan? And then they are forced to create the business plan. And really, most often than not, if you're listening to us right now and you're thinking about starting up a business, do not wait for the point in which the SBDC counselor or your your banker tells you, where's your business plan. You should really be thinking about this from the get-go for all of the reasons that Robin said and more. So thank you for that, Robin. At this point, we have defined a business plan. We've talked about the differences between business plans and lean startup canvases and otherwise. We've given ample reasons for why you should start a business plan. And now in this segment, what I'd like to do with you, Robin, is to talk some about the fundamental structure of the business plan. And then we'll probably close out that segment with what we do with the business plan once we have the business plan. So let's get into it. What does a business plan physically and visually look like? What's its structure? And why is it laid out in that particular order traditionally? And why do you prepare it in a different order? Because I know you do. So demystify the business planning process for small business startups.
I would be happy to, Ray. And I want to give an example here. A while back, I was taking a chemistry class, and it was a college level chemistry class. I'd never taken chemistry as a high school. I got into one class and I completely bombed. I failed. I withdrew within one day, went over to another school, another university, took a chemistry class. And the best thing the professor told me was, he said, for those of you who don't have a background in chemistry, this is just like following a recipe or doing anything step by step. Follow through the process and you will have your experiment and be successful in the end. That's the same approach to a business plan. People get very excited about business plans and very worried about them. It's kind of like a recipe. There are certain standard parts to a business plan, and I'm going to go over those right now, and then I'll go into more depths in the different parts. And the really important part about this is that every business plan is going to be different. There is not one process that will capture all businesses or all business plans. You're going to have to choose the parts that are important to your business plan. The general parts, though, are there will always be a cover page. That's going to give some specific information. There'll be a table of contents because you want your readers to be able to find the parts that they need. There'll be an executive summary, a company description. Then we're going to get into strategy. I pull strategy out. Different people put strategy in different places, but I like to have it as its own category because I think it's critically important. Then you're going to go over the industry and market analysis. That's going to include your target market, your market research, competitive analysis. Then you're going to talk about your products and services. Again, that's a portion that I always pull out by itself because that is important. You'll talk about your value statement, in the intellectual property aspects that you have. Then you'll talk about your pricing strategy. And again, that's one section that I pull out because I want you to understand exactly what you're charging and what it's costing you.
Robin is actually going to share with me her outline of these portions of the business plan. So I'm going to put that into the show notes for you. So as Robin is describing the outline of the business plan, you can actually follow along there at webandbeyondcast.com.
The next section I talk about is the marketing and sales plan. Again, I pull that out specifically because I want you to know very clearly what your tactics and what your marketing budget is going to be. Next, we talk about the management and operations plan. Then finally, the financials, your income statements, cash flow statements, and balance sheets, break-even analysis, and your personal financial statements. And then for everything else that didn't make it in the plan that you feel is important, there's the appendix. And that's it.
So that's the outline of the business plan. Now we're going to look more in depth into each one of these sections. Take it away, Robin.
Let's move on to the company description. There you're going to include your name, your address, your phone number, just the facts, ma'am. Include the business location if it's different or if there are multiple locations. You want to talk about your classification. Are you retail or wholesale or service or what are you? You'll talk about your legal structures. It's just going to be all the aspects of your company, your start date, your history if you have some, or if you're a startup, your projections. You'll talk about your team, your board of advisors, all that very factual information. Then the section that I love, and this is actually where I do start with clients a lot of times, Ray, is their strategy. This is going to include their mission, their vision, their values, their SWOT analysis. And for those of you who have never done a SWOT analysis, that's strengths and weaknesses, which are internal, and opportunities and threats, which are external and you have no control over. So that's the SWOT analysis. Then you'll talk about your goals and objectives out to 3 to 5 years, 10 years for your major goals, and you're going to include your marketing goals later. Here, we're talking about sales and time. Your executive summary is the best part of your plan. It's actually the last part of the plan that you do. About 1 to 2 pages, no more than that. Think of it as introducing your company to someone that has never met you before. What do you want to tell them? Your mission and vision should be parts of what you're talking to them about. Give a brief history of your company. Talk about your management team. What milestones have you achieved or will you achieve? What are your future expansion goals? Who is your target? What do you offer? Why will your idea, your company work and be profitable? What makes you different? Include some basic financial information here too, just the highlights. You'll include a lot more later on in your financial section. This is your plan. Be brutally honest about this section. Next is your industry and market analysis. For the industry analysis, how big is the industry? Next, you're going to do industry and market analysis. What is the NAICS code?
You can find the NAICS code, which is the NAICS code or SIC code. I will put a link to the NAICS code search tool in the show notes, so you can just check that out and you can find your own NAICS code from that place.
Perfect. Thank you, Ray. And so for some businesses, that'll be very relevant. For some businesses, it won't be as relevant at all. If it's relevant, put it in there. Is your industry growing? What's the outlook? Is it stagnant? Is it dramatically changing? And here I talk about technology. Technology is impacting almost every industry on the earth today. So what is technology doing to your industry? What market share do you expect to gain? Keep this simple. You're starting out as a small business. You do not need 3 billion customers as you're starting out. Keep it simple. What can you logically expect to gain over what period of time? How many clients do you need at that price that you want to charge, given your expenses, to make a profit? And does that result seem reasonable? Are there any regulatory restrictions or trends that are negative? That's the type of thing you're going to look at your industry analysis. Next, your market analysis. Target market. You will hear a lot about target market, and it's very, very important. Who are they? Who are the people that will be your customers? Where do they hang out? What are the demographics? What are their ages, their gender, their household income, their education level? What are their psychographics? Do they like social media? Do they prefer flyers? All types of things we're going to talk about with your target market. But most specifically, where do they hang out? How are you going to find them?
One thing that I want people to typically add in their business plan are technographics. And technographics is basically how technologically savvy are those people, because it really makes a difference on the internet how sophisticated people are going to be with technology as it relates to your product, even if your product has nothing to do with technology, because it's going to be how you get in front of them, as you were talking about, Robin.
I love that. I've never heard that phrase, and I'm going to include that from now on with your permission. I love it. You've got to find them. So where are they? And how savvy are they, and how are you going to reach them, and where are they comfortable? We talk a lot about niche, a target niche or a niche market. I want you to be niche, but not too nichey, sort of like Goldilocks. You want the just right niche. Are there enough buyers in your niche? Is it big enough for you to create your business? That's what we're talking about. We'll talk about market research. Include any primary or original research. Those are focus groups and surveys and speaking with others. And secondary research generated by others, articles, trade journals, the Bureau of Labor and Stats, that type of research. So include both primary and secondary research. And then a competitive analysis. Who are your competitors? I want you to find the closest competitor to you. Who are they? How are you going to beat them? And a lot of times today, people can collaborate with their competitors. If the niche is large enough, you might have just a little bit different offering and collaborate with some of your competitors. Some competitors you will never be able to collaborate with. The answer will lie with you, and you'll have to decide which approach you're going to take.
When you're thinking about competitive analysis, you should also probably think about marketing alliances, because many times your competitors are people who may serve the same population, but who will like you and not like them, or vice versa. Be prepared for the fact that you can't help everybody and not everybody will like you. So you can actually work with your competitors as marketing alliance partners, where you market together to the same group of people. I see this all the time with graphic designers, for example. So graphic designers have styles and personalities that don't mesh with everybody. So if you work together as graphic designers, you can actually both help one another by reducing your overall marketing costs, your marketing advertising dollars, and make more business, right? Get more business by the fact that you're working together to communicate out to the same audience. So don't think about this as a scarcity mindset. You really need to think about this as how can we have an abundance mindset, that there's more than enough business for both of us, for all of us, if we work together.
That's an awesome concept, Ray, and I agree with you 100%. Next, we have products and services. This is the value statement I talked about before. Your USP, unique selling proposition. Why are you better? What's your competitive advantage? Spell it out. You talked about it all throughout your plan in bits and pieces. Now put it all together. Your products and services. We want here your names and descriptions. What are your products? What are their features and benefits? Include some pictures, include some promotions. And you can also put your promotions and marketing material in the appendix if it's too bulky to put here. Any ongoing research and development that you have, talk about it here. Any innovative new products that are coming out down the road. I also like to include the intellectual property aspects here. If you have any way to protect your products, please do so. Are there any trademark, service mark, trade secret, patent, anything like that that you can secure to protect your product? Pricing strategy. Again, I like this section all by itself to make sure it does not get lost. What are you charging and why? Are you taking a high price strategy, a low price strategy, or a moderate pricing strategy? What perceived value does this lend to your company, your products and services? There are some companies who are absolutely high-end, high-value companies. There are other companies that are going to compete more on volume and have a lower price. Here I always talk about Nordstrom's and Walmart. I can buy a dress or a suit at both companies. I'm going to pay a different price point at each company. I'll have a different shopping experience at each company. If I go online, look at their websites, 2 different experiences. I can tell you that both companies will make money. Which strategy are you going to follow? And this absolutely goes into your branding. How will you make a profit? That's what you're really talking about here. And do you have a free offering? Are you using a freemium model where you're going to bring something, offer something for free with the enticement of bringing this person into your marketing plan? Marketing and sales plans. This is really your promotional and sales strategy. You've already decided your company's strategy, your mission, your vision, all the other information. But how are you actually going to sell your product? Here we talk a lot about tactics. Let's just go through a few of them. A website. By the way, please have a website. There are, and Ray, you probably know the number much more strongly than I do, but 2/3 of the companies in the United States don't have websites. Is that accurate?
It's currently 60%. 60% of small businesses in the US do not have a website.
And I find that shocking. People will rely on Facebook and other social media platforms, and that's part of the marketing strategy. But I encourage you to have a website also. Are you going to use a blog? A blog is really social media, but I break it out. And how about your social media platforms? All the platforms you're going to use now or in the future, include them here. I'm also including podcasts here and videos. We have an email newsletter, and I really strongly encourage people to have newsletters. Every time I talk about this, someone will say, oh, I never open newsletters and newsletters are no longer effective. It's actually not true. When I ran the nonprofit, no matter what my open rate was, every time I put out my newsletter, we had calls for appointments, we had calls for people to take our seminars. There was activity every time we put out our newsletter. So newsletters can be very valuable. Do you have any free lead-ins? Do you have any white papers, a free consult, a resources page? What are you offering on your website or in your social media platforms for free? Always include networking. Talk about your referral network. This is your referral partners. And by the way, referrals are a two-way street. You can't just assume that somebody's going to refer to you all the time and you never refer back to them. So make sure you've got a two-way referral relationship. You can do networking one-on-one. You can go to lunches and coffees, and you can do online networking. I have a university that does online networking. It's one of my favorite activities. I meet people from all over the world through this online networking platform. You can have video meetings. You can go to chamber meetings, all types of networking. And then the one-on-one follow-ups from other networking events. Make sure when you go networking and you meet someone that you follow up with them. I love the salespeople who have said every lead not followed up on is a sale lost. Will you be a speaker? You can be a paid speaker or otherwise. Be strategic about your time. Are you going to put some books out, some paid books or print books or ebooks? And don't forget phone calls. I now live in a more rural part of the country. In the urban part of the country where I lived before, people didn't pick up the phone and call as much. Here, telephone is the primary way to contact people. So figure out all these different methods and which one works best for you. Are you going to offer rewards? Will you put ads out? Will you use the newspaper? Will you use social media ads? There are so many marketing tactics, but that's just scratching the surface, and that's where you want to put your marketing tactics in your business plan. Another part of this is your marketing budget. What do you need to spend by when to achieve your marketing results? If this figure is too low or too high, go back and adjust your tactics. I can give you an example of a person who started a brick and mortar and spent $30,000 in marketing and had almost nothing to show for it at the end of 6 months. That was, my heart hurt for this person, but she just overspent on her marketing and didn't use good tactics. So there are lots of ways to spend your marketing dollars. Make sure that you're optimizing your marketing dollars. Next, we talk about management and your operations plan. Look at your distribution, your location. Are you bricks and mortar? Are you going to be online? Do you have logistics aspects? Do you have floor plans?
This would be like a yoga studio that was opening in a town, and they had to coordinate all of the pieces of the build out and setting up the yoga studio and hiring their yogis and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's an important part for a lot of businesses. If you're a solopreneur from a home-based office, it's not going to be as important. So again, this is a great example of where some of these aspects will make it into your plan and some will not. What are your operating regulations? Is there anything specific to your industry? Are there any licenses or regulations or zoning or fees that you have to look at? Any special taxes? Then look at your HR, your human resources. Include your org chart here, your organizational chart. Even if it only includes one person for now, that will clearly show you all the different tasks that you're doing. How many hats are you wearing? I also like to include your risks and challenges and future plans. Spell them out here. Then we come to your financials. If you are a startup, I like you to include a startup list. What are you paying for as you're starting your company? List all the expenses. You have professional expenses. You might have some research and development. You may be paying someone to create your legal entity. You may be paying for trademarks. You may be getting some insurance, putting in telephones, whatever your startup expenses are. Then, as you move forward, I'd like your income and expense statement. For that, that's money flowing into your company and money leaving your company. And break it into as much detail as you need to have. I want you to have a very clear picture at the end of each month, whether you're in the black or if you're in the red. If you're in the red, you've spent more that month than you've had money coming in, and there's no cash that you can go to make up that gap. So you need to know when that's going to happen so that you can get a loan or put some kind of financing in place to turn that red magically into black. We talk about your balance sheet. That's the stuff that you have. So do you have plants and equipment? Do you have a building? A lot of our companies do not have robust balance sheets because they're very lean, they're home-based businesses, and they don't have a lot of inventory. So it will depend again on your business, but you always want to have a picture of your stuff, and that's the balance sheet. Your income and expense statement will be from a point in time. So for example, you might want to create your income statements for a quarter, for 6 months. You can compare, if you use a program like QuickBooks, you can compare your income statement. Maybe I'll just pick a month, March of year Y over March of the prior year. And that'll give you a historic look back as you grow your business. Then make sure you include your break-even analysis and your personal financial statements, specifically if you're going for a bank loan and often for a leasehold. We're going to use a very simple example. Let's say that you're making handbags or purses, and you're going to sell your purses for $10. It's going to cost you $7 to produce those purses. If you subtract the 7 from 10, your profit would be $3 per unit, per purse. Let's just say that you had fixed expenses of $300 per month. These are not actually realistic figures, but they're easy for math. So if you were to take that $3 profit per unit that you sell, divide it into the 300, you would have to sell 100 units each month just to break even, to pay your fixed expenses in that scenario. And at that point, you better really enjoy making 100 purses per month because there's no profit. So you'd have to add your profit onto that and then divide that $3 into the profit that you want to make. So that's just a very simplistic way to look at your break-even analysis. There are lots of awesome calculators out there online that you can use to plug in the numbers and calculate your break-even. In the appendix, you're going to include things that need to be included in your business plan but are not pertinent to the main body. That will be perhaps your floor plan. Always the resumes of your top key personnel go in here. And that's it.
Fantastic. So you've given us a detailed look into the business plan parts and its construction. And so at this point, once a business plan is, as the lyrics go to the song, signed, sealed, delivered, it's yours. What do you do after all those long hours of working on it? What do you do with the business plan? How often do you look at it? How often do you update it? And I know that some people say, you should rewrite it every year, every 10 years. There's all kinds of advice out there. What's the life of a business plan look like?
It's really a living document. You mentioned that before, and it truly is. The person who's going to make their business plan and spend all this time on it and then throw it in a drawer and never look at it again, that's not the approach that you should take. I really believe that you need to look at your business plan, and it really depends on the stage you are with your business. some people who want to look at it every year, and I think that's a really great approach. As you're starting out, though, I'd like to have you look at it, just review it monthly in the beginning, and then you might progress to quarterly, and then I believe that you always need at least an annual review. But when something comes up and a problem occurs, bang, you go right back to your business plan.
With that takes us to our final segment of the show, which is Best Tool of the Week. This week, I have a tool for everybody called NLoop, and NLoop is a business planning software. So what you do with this business plan software is that you're able to open up an account online. You could try it for free. There's a fee associated with it if you plan to, go forward with it. But it allows you to share it with users, and you can create real-time performance metrics, so you can score yourself against these particular metrics. You can put text in and customize that text. It does financials. It automatically generates financial reports. It's just a really great tool for being able to give you an understanding of your business plan and help produce the business plan, and even has like a pass-fail reporting functionality, so that you can look at critical issues and identify those and figure out whether or not this is actually going to work for you or not. I really like the tool. It's a simple tool with a lot of stuff working under the hood, and I think that's really useful. One quick runner-up, though, is actually on the SBA's website, the Small Business Administration. If you go to sba.org, they have a business planning tool. And their financial tool is actually really good for a free tool. It's really great for being able to put together your financials. So I've put a link to both NLoop and the SBA Business Plan tool in the show notes. I put a couple of honorable mentions in there as well, so you can check out those. And that brings me to the closing of this episode and our time together, Robin. Thank you so much for being here on the show with us.
Ray, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
Absolutely. How can people get in touch with you after the show if they have questions?
The very best way is to go to my website, which is startuptogrowth.com, and that's startuptogrowth.com. There's a contact link there. You can also email me at robin@startuptogrowth.com. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, please reach out.
Wonderful. Great. So people can go to startuptogrowth.com and reach out to Robin, or robin@startuptogrowth.com, and reach out to her if you have any questions. With that, before we close out this cast, if you have a comment or question, please feel free to visit the podcast page at webandbeyondcast.com. And if you want to send a direct message to us, click on the contact button on the website. There you can ask a question, suggest a topic for a future episode, and we can get back in touch with you if necessary. Also, if you're able to help us out, please leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or Stitcher on your phone or desktop. This helps us know how we're doing, and it encourages Apple and the other podcast directories to display Web and BeyondCast to more listeners. So thank you. Thank you for listening to Web and BeyondCast, where small business comes to learn about marketing and managing on the web and beyond. I'm your host, Ray Sidney Smith. Until next time, here's to your small business success on the Web and Beyond.